Hello, everybody. Welcome to the CT Sports Talent Show. My name is Christopher Saunders, and I've got a guy on who I haven't had in some time. It's been a while. Haven't seen him since my stag. Now I'm married. I got the hubby shirt on. Coach Tredwell is with me, the coach for the girls basketball team for hand. Coach, I appreciate you, buddy.
Chris, it's always good to see you, my man.
It's always a pleasure. And, first off, congratulations on win number 250. I know you had 150 on your wall to your right. Got to ask you, did you have any more hair in the beard or anything at that time?
The beard, if I look at this picture, the beard was a lot more lustrous. It was like an end of the season thing. It certainly was darker, which was unfortunate. This is going away. I'm starting to take on like a real like Santa Claus vibe here, but we're hanging in there.
When I saw that, I was like, oh, I got to shoot him a text. And then I obviously texted you, and this is how this happened. So I really appreciate you, coach. You and I were just talking a little bit because I know last year was a struggle. You did
Yep.
make the playoffs and such, but again, you guys got handed to a couple times. Young team. It's going to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
But you mentioned to me, and I didn't mention it to you while we were talking because I wanted to ask you here. Um, Obviously, prior to last year, so much success. It was almost like the hand invitational in a way, in some case, seriously. But last year was a little bit of a reboot. And now, with the way that the game is evolving and everything else, my question to you is, after last year, did you look at yourself or your staff and say, even though we had success the last 10 plus years, 11 plus year, plus years, now it's time to maybe change a little bit. Maybe our way of going is not working anymore, or maybe it was a weird just year. What says you?
If you're not evaluating every single year, I'm not 100% sure what you're doing. As a coach at a public school, you're locked into whoever is showing up. So, you know, fortunately, we were able to get some practices in the summer this year, thanks to the CIAC rule. You see kids during the fall and how they're playing. But even still, Monday, December 2nd, we started and you have these ideas and you have these things that you want to accomplish. And then sometimes they work and sometimes they don't.
Hmm.
But if you're not approaching every single day as an evaluation period and every single day, like how can we be at our absolute best, then you're not going to be terribly successful. So this year, we certainly had some plans and we had some ideas of how our offense and our defense was going to shape up. And offensively, some of them were working and some of them weren't. So you continue to tweak, you continue to adjust. And I think we're starting to get there. I think we're starting to figure it out. I mean, we're halfway through the season. But I think and then in this last week, it's been the first week where we were completely healthy. I think Sunday, December 15th. We had one kid sick. We had one kid bang her head off the floor. The next day, we had our only senior captain goes home sick, and we had a game that night, and Foreign absolutely throttled us. And we haven't been 100% healthy since then. So this week, we're really, I think we're starting to put it together. And guess what? We got Foreign on Tuesday. So who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? That's why they play the game.
Hmm.
But you know, approaching this season, especially after, going 8-14 last year, you really wanted to kind of look at it and say, all right, it's year one. We are starting over. We're starting fresh. What do we want it to look like? What are our priorities? How can we be at our absolute best? And, the kids have really embraced the approach. I've got two new assistant coaches this year who have been fantastic. And it's been fun to go to practice every day. It's what we get to do is the best, and coaching is great. And I don't remember who said it. I wish I could remember, but they say, a bad day of coaching is better than a good day at anything else.
Hmm. No, you're right. And again, it's very hard to be a head coach where every single year is championships or class finals, state finals, whatever it is. It's tough. It's just not there's going to be some lull years, right? I mean, I think about, even the Crosby Bulldogs, a team that has a lot of talent on the boys' side. They went through a little bit of a low period this year where they just got to their 3 game win streak, which typically in Crosby happens in their first 3 games. That did not happen for Crosby until 2 games prior before they won against Wilby on Friday. So like it happens, right? I mean, I don't know if you've been paying attention to the NVL on the girls' side. I know Holy Cross has been doing well.
Yeah.
Wilby has 8 wins for the first time since 2009, 2010. I
Wow.
mean, that's amazing for those young women to be able to feel like what it feels like to be able to win. And I could imagine for your girls this year having a little bit of a better year. I know it's early, but you would think now they're getting confidence.
That's the hope. I mean, and that's we've got a really young team. We only have one senior. We have four juniors who have been, working their way through, but then we play a ton of sophomores.
Mhm.
And in a normal year, those kids would be playing JV. We joke about like, you guys have kind of been drafted into service here. Like, we're a little thin up top. And you guys have really kind of developed and really gained confidence, and they're really starting to feed off each other. They've got great energy. They really get along well. And it's fun. It's fun to see them grow. It's fun to see them have success.
Mhm.
Uh, and that's also the beauty and the I'll say the scary part about coaching at a place like Hand. Every program's good. Every program's good. There's not a single coach in there who's just rolling the balls out and collecting checks. You
Mhm.
know, every single coach is pushing for league championships and state championships. So if you're not showing up every day, trying to improve and trying to get yourself better,
Mhm.
it's not going to work out for you. Like it's just that level of commitment, that top tier level of commitment is what we got to have every single day. And these kids have been really good about that.
Well, it's funny because it's not funny, but I've only seen a handful of coaches from the SEC. Obviously, from my times of doing games at Mohegan and so on. Obviously, I've seen your coaching because one of the first games I did was when you were coaching, have been coaching at Hand when you played Holy Cross.
Right.
I saw Mike last year for Sheehan. I've seen Coase for a number of years, either when he's been here against Holy Cross or when I've been had the opportunity to be able to call their games in the playoffs. And I could tell you. They are fiery, but like you said, they're not collecting checks. They're not just saying, here's the ball and go score. No, those guys are intense.
Yeah, there's no messing around. Especially with Mercy, especially with Sheehan. Those guys, just legendary coaches, stellar programs year after year, just sustained success. And that's just it. So it's not even just the coaches that I'm working with at Daniel Hand. It's the coaches I'm competing against every night in the SEC. It's a great league. You are pushing yourself to be the best. Um, it's fun. It's fun to be in a league that, is arguably the best in the state. And certainly you can make the case for the FCAC, you can make the case for the CCC. But obviously I'm an SEC guy, so I'm gonna lean on that. But yeah, every single night, if you're not bringing your A game, you're gonna get beat.
Yeah, you're right. And like you said, if you're not able to compete, I mean, they will show early on if you can compete at that level. Last year was that year where it was like, you know what? Hand may not be as strong as they were, but again, like you said, if the young women are able to compete and just continue to make those progressions, which it seems like they have early on, it's the old saying is, well, get them now because you may not be able to get them a year or two. It's kind of like Kansas City last
The
year.
Hurley quote. It's the
Yeah.
Hurley quote.
Yeah,
You
thank
get us
you.
now.
Exactly. So, like prime example, Kansas City. Kansas City, in my opinion, was terrible in terms of Kansas City level last year.
Right.
Well, what they do? They won the Super Bowl. So, like, if you don't get them early, you're not going to get them later.
And that's the hope. I mean, to be 6-4 right now, we're doing okay. But we're about to find out a lot about our program in the next 2 weeks. We're at Foreign on Tuesday. We've got Guilford at home on Friday, which is a rivalry game. No matter what the record is, you throw that out when it's a rival. And then we're gonna have Lyman Hall, who beat us earlier. We've got, Mercy coming back up, Brantford coming back up. Like we've taken losses to a lot of these teams, and they're good teams. They got really good players and they got good coaches. So we're going to find out how much growth, we've had. And the kids are still practicing hard. They're absorbing the new information. They're adjusting on a day-to-day basis. And that's really all you can ask. They've got great attitudes. They come ready to play. They're coachable. And like I said, the energy. And that's probably the biggest priority, when dealing with a high school program. If they're bringing positive energy every day, we can shape that. We can point it in the right direction.
Mhm.
There's nothing worse, as a coach, as a teacher, when you're dealing with somebody who's just kind of just like, and we're just so fortunate to have kids who bring it every day.
Coach, and you've obviously have brought her for a number of years since you've been at Hand. I mean, I have to ask you, and it's funny because I was talking to Coach Phelps at St. Paul, who's been there for 33 years, and I was like, Coach, you've been around longer than I've been alive. I'm 32, and he started laughing. And but seriously, like he's the kind of guy that has been able to not be stuck in his ways. Like he's told me he's been able to evolve as a coach, right? As times have evolved, as the game has evolved, having his staff has a lot of young guys and they bring in the new age of basketball, combine that with his style, and they've had, I think it's what, 17, 18, 19 consecutive years in the playoffs in the States, right? I mean, it's a very, very, and you talk about consistency, and his big thing is culture, right? And I know
Yep.
obviously, hopefully, maybe one day you'll get to 33 years. Hopefully,
The
that'd be
hope. That's the hope.
so. I have to ask you, when you think about that, right? I mean, have you been able to kind of pick up on maybe some things that you felt like did not work last year that, you know what, maybe needed to be kind of changed? I know I asked that question earlier, but more specifically for you.
Definitely. If you're not, like I said, if you're not evaluating constantly, then you're not going to have success, sustained success. Let's work that through. But I mean, you have to, and you can't have, you have to balance your ego,
Yeah.
because, yeah, you've been coaching for a long time. Great. I mean, but, last year's success or or 10 years ago, the success from that team, it's a new day. It doesn't carry over. So if you come in and go like, well, we did it before, so, and it worked, so you guys have to do it. Well, this is a new group. If I try and put the expectations of our state title team from 2017 on this team, that's completely ridiculous. They're completely different kids and they have completely different skill sets and different understandings. So we have to figure out, all right, well, that did work and that's great. Can we pull anything from that group and say, like, can we transfer it over or are we just starting fresh? You
Yeah.
know, so your ability to number one say you don't know everything, and I'm speaking about myself, not the kids. Like you don't know everything, like and there are times when you're going to be out there where like it looks like you don't know anything, but like you know come at it every day with a fresh set of eyes.
Yeah.
Come at it every day like remembering what it was like to be a high school athlete, that you failed a test or the in my case, the girl that I liked didn't, like me back or something like that. Or like, your parents were giving you a hard time and they're coming in every day. Can we compartmentalize enough to, for 2 hours to be able to bring a ton of energy, to have, a great team environment, to be able to learn and prepare? Um, and can we do that, considering everything else that these kids have got going on?
Yeah.
So, it's challenging, but it's the best kind of challenge, to be able to be around these young women who are just and there are times, and I think about this a lot, especially coaching at hand, where these kids are just they're all taking upper level classes. They're all super smart. They all have such bigger dreams. And I just remember being, a high school player, and all I wanted to do was play. That's all I wanted to do. And these kids are going to be physical therapists and they're going to be scientists and they're going to be all these things. And I'm like, yeah, but what about foreign? And they're going like, Coach, I got an AP exam on Wednesday. This is a really big deal. And you're like, yeah, yeah, that's kind of important. You should really be focused on that. But can I get like 2 hours really quick? And then we just focus on how to take away Faith Doyle, who's got about 1,500 points already. Like, can we just do that for a little while? And then totally AP exams. I get it. I completely get it. So it's recognizing where the priorities are and
Yeah.
and how we can squeeze the absolute best out of each kid and have a positive experience and still win games. It's a balancing act, but and like I said, it's the best. It really is. It's such a rewarding experience. It's fun.
And you found ways to be able to do that. I mean, like you said, I was the same way when I played. My thinking was now, obviously, I was a little bit less of a talented player like you were. You were way more talented than I was. So I was riding the pine a lot of ways in every sport, especially like because I did soccer, track. Track, I didn't have an opportunity to ride the pine. So I just rode the track, if you want to call it that. So, but seriously though, my thinking was like, okay, I just want to play, just want to focus on playing because I love playing. And my brother is the smarter one between us. So he got the brain. I got whatever athleticism was left on my family, which wasn't much. But it's funny that you say that because I've noticed as I've called games throughout the years and talking with these young athletes and getting to know them, I don't know if I was like that back then, but I feel like they're way more forward thinking. They're thinking about, like you said, they're thinking about like 5, 10 years down the road and families and like you said, scientists and all the other high profile, big brain kind of things. I mean, that's cool. That's awesome.
It's, I mean, maybe part of it is the gender stereotype, with boys versus girls, and girls are just way more mature. They're just, they're focused on bigger things, and maybe that's the difference. Obviously it's not universal.
Mhm.
But I still to this day remember, meeting with my guidance counselor my senior year in high school and her asking, like, what do you think about for college? And I kind of ran off the list of schools that were, all the small D3 schools that were looking at me to play basketball. And she said, well, what if you don't play basketball? And I said, you mean like if they cut my arms off? Like I was like, I knew I was gonna go, I knew I wanted to play, and that's all I wanted to do, and the rest I'll figure out later on. Um, but with these kids, it's like, and so many of them, and again, it's the beauty of coaching the SEC and the beauty of coaching at Daniel Hand. So many of these kids could play at the next level,
Mhm.
and some of them do, and that's great. And I love going to see them play, but at the same time, most of them are like, no, I got other stuff to do. This is great. This is a good experience, but I got bigger fish to fry.
That's awesome. Coach, I really appreciate you coming on. Always fun to be able to, talk shop with you. Congratulations on win number 250. And
Well,
I'll get you back on when you got win number 350. How about that?
that's you know what? That's a deal. We can book that.
All right. So what, maybe about 3 years from now, right? 4 years?
Yeah. Think about seven, somewhere around there, maybe. We'll look for that.
Good.
There'll be no
So,
care left.
all right, good. So I won't have any left and I'll be closer to 40. Okay, awesome. Perfect. But coach, always a pleasure. Seriously.
Always good to see you, my man. Thank you for everything you do.
I'll wrap things up here in the CT Sports Talent Show. Next time, stay safe. Remember, CT stands for Connecticut Talent. Enjoy your find them all. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and be well.